Hey guys, welcome back to Control Z Crypto. So I've got an update video for you, another look at the dashboard to see how these ROI DApps are holding up. There hasn't been too much new coming into this space in the last day. There are always going to be these new apps that come out and kind of die very quickly. They're basically quick cash grabs. I think it makes sense for me just to focus on the ones that are gaining traction, the ones that people are actually talking about, rather than kind of try and dig out obscure ones that may or may not actually go anywhere, just by the nature of these kind of applications, these apps, these contracts. Basically, it doesn't really make sense to even worry about the ones that are not going to gain any investments. You're not going to make money off them. So with that being said, I want to kind of make this a little bit of a shorter video just to see how things are going, update a few of my predictions, and update a few of these risk ratings just to keep you guys in the loop. I would also like to start looking at other kinds of apps for this channel and just basically do some more analysis on it's a wide world of DeFi out there, and I spent a lot of time in it looking at basically different types of apps, and these ROIs have been quite interesting, and there's an opportunity there that I've seen, but I do want to kind of branch out and have a look at other things as well. So that being said, it's going to be a shorter video than last time, I hope, but hopefully also filled with some good information to give you guys some updates. Before going forward, I'll say the usual spiel here. I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. This is my own opinion, my own analysis, and please do your own research. All of these ROI apps are very risky. They're all essentially Ponzi schemes in the way that they're structured, and that means that a lot of people end up actually losing money. If you're too late, if you go into the wrong type of plan, then you will lose money. So you need to inform yourself, understand how these work, and not just kind of FOMO in to these apps. Okay, so let's have a look. Oh, and I will say as well that you can find links to all of these in the description down below. So I'd never advise anyone to invest in any of these. But if you do want to invest, please use the links, and I'll get a referral bonus out of that. If you want to support the channel, I'd appreciate if you do that. But some of those links in the description do have a referral attached. Some of them are just raw links. It just depends. I'm only referring ones that I'm actually actively invested in myself. The rest, they're just links to the contract. So by all means, if you want to use those, or or pass, because these are quite risky, to be quite honest, most of the time, and they're getting riskier every day. So that's the other thing that I'm noticing looking through these figures, is that basically it's the lifespan seem to be getting shorter. The people seem to be getting more savvy. The edges aren't so much there as much as they were a couple of weeks ago. So that it's getting harder to kind of pick out any kind of gems and make a good profit here. So, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. And with that all being said, let's have a look. So Daily Matic is, I had predicted that this would run out of cash on the balance yesterday. It's hanging in there slightly, so it's down to 25,000. That's not going to last long. Especially on an app that has no lock-in and daily withdrawals. So I've gotten 125% return on that one so far. And if it lasts another hour or so, I can get a little bit more out of it, but I don't think it's going to last too long. So, with these predictions, I would rather predict it early rather than late, because if I'm predicting that it's going to fail and it fails sooner than I predict, then my risk calculation is wrong. So anything beyond my predicted date here is a bonus. It means that I'm making a profit there, so I'm happy with that. So that is Daily Matic. It's there's not much more to say. It's about to die there. Poly Staker. So interesting here. This is one that I predicted would end today. You can see the days remaining 0. There is still a little bit in that balance, but it is dropping down really quickly. And my comment there was that this one may last longer due to the whole bonus. And this is where I'm I think there's something interesting going on with these hold bonuses and these snooze functions, and a lot of people are putting stake in them. As I've said before, I don't really trust that they're going to extend the life of these contracts by more than a day or two. And if you look at Polystaker, let's take a look at the model that I had out for Polystaker. Basically, it will have gone to 0 by today. But because of these snooze functions, because of these other features where you can kind of postpone that, hold bonuses where people are incentivized not to make a withdrawal, I think the curve just kind of slightly goes out a little bit, is a little bit higher, but I'm expecting that when it kind of hits this point that it should be at 0, people will start noticing that that account balance dropping quicker than normal, and it will just drop off a cliff. So 16th of March is my prediction, and that is today. It may well end up being lasting a day or two, but I don't think it's going to go beyond that. All right, next on the list is Multimatic. All right, so I've redone the model around Multimatic because there's I was getting a lot of comments saying, hey, you're going to be wrong on this one. We don't think it's going to last. Or sorry, we think it's going to last much longer. This thing is really well set up. We trust the community. We trust the devs. We think it's great. Well, okay, so let's see how that goes. But I just wanted to review my numbers and make sure that I wasn't kind of off in my thinking. And I wanted to add the last few days of numbers in there. So if you look at the balance in itself, it is holding up quite well. It's 1348, and it's been hovering around the 14s for a while. It is going down. I wouldn't invest in any of these ones so far. Obviously, I'm predicting them about to end. So it is dropping down, but it is also higher than you would expect at this stage if you're just following the numbers straight and not accounting for things like snooze function and whatnot. So again, my prediction is that may artificially maintains the balance a little bit higher than it should be, but when we get towards the actual day that it should end, it should drop down. So I predicted set the 19th to the 21st for Multimatic to die. And I think that's probably still borne out. So I'll just show you my last. So this was the last model I showed you about Multimatic, and you can see it had a kind of in its favor, it had a not too high first day investment. So it did have a kind of sustained initial period of investment, which is always good for these DAPPs. But it dropped down a lot. And what tends to happen there under the model is that you get to a point about 14 days after the initial investment where it starts dropping off. So as I've said, I think it'll kind of continue on for a little bit and then drop off maybe shortly after this 20th of March. My caveats in these models, as I've talked about before, is I don't have perfect information and I don't have a crystal ball. So I'm not just pulling these numbers out of my ass or anything. I'm essentially just plugging in the conditions of the smart contract into a spreadsheet and then just seeing how it would perform over time. But what I don't know is how many people are going to invest every day. I don't know how many people are going to take advantage of the referral program. So I've got some kind of adjustment in there that's minimal for the referral program. And things like the snooze function is untested as well. And I think the biggest one for things like Multimatic is that you don't know, let's go to the website, you don't know what packages people are choosing. So my assumption is that people are going to take the logical option and go into the 14 days and basically almost everyone in that 14 days. But if a lot of people have gone into 21, if a lot of people have gone into 28, then yes, it's going to last longer than predicted. And that's just something that I can't get any visibility into just by looking at the contract. So I've got to make a guess there, assuming everyone is behaving perfectly rationally and doing the optimal thing, which I know is not the case. But look, if that's the case, then this sharp drop off won't be as sharp as it is on this graph. And what you have is basically, say, if half of those people invested are not in the 14-day plan, then this definitely will last probably significantly longer, and maybe up to another week or so. Just based at a rough guess. So I will be interested to see how this plays out, and to see if this model is accurate. But I think our days of expecting people to take the 21-day or the 28-day option, I think those are definitely numbered. I think most people are getting wise to the fact that you go in the lowest, and these are just too risky. So I think that a lot of people invested in Multimatic before that was the case, but now I think we can't rely on that to keep happening. And as I just said, I did update the Multimatic model, and essentially just a couple of extra days. So this was only up until 12th of March of actual data, and everything else was forecast here at a flat rate of 10,000 invested a day. So in this update, you'll see the spreadsheet just slightly changed with today's updated actual investment figures from the last few days. And you can see not much has changed, just a tiny little bump to the contract balance here, and still the same drop off. And you can see basically in the last few days, 22,000 on the 13th, then 5,000, then 35. There is still some momentum around this app. People still are investing. 35,000 a day is still pretty good, but basically look at these new investments in the first week or so, and then those become unlocked around this time, and that's why that contract balance drops so sharply. It's because today, 16th of March, these are all unlocked contracts from the 14 days. They're 14 days old. They start eating away at the contract balance. And if people are hitting the snooze button, then yes, that contract balance will appear artificially high. But as soon as they stop snoozing, it just drops off a cliff. And so my model actually predicts that by today, the contract balance should be 682. And as you saw, it's still about 1.3 million. So it's impossible for me to say how much of that is because of the snooze feature, how much of that is because people are in longer than 14-day lockups. But look, we'll just wait and see on this one. I think it'll be interesting to see if it is the snooze feature, to see if that prediction holds true and there is a kind of sharp drop off very quickly after the target date, when people start noticing that the daily balance, that the contract balance is dropping down very quickly. Okay, so that's the update on Multimatic. What else have we got? Matic Fury V2. I spoke about this yesterday. They just kind of sneakily added a V2. Didn't really say anything about it. And you can see here 2421 was the live balance, and there's not much that has changed there. It's not, doesn't seem to be getting much investments. I'll just double check that one. It may have gone up. Yeah, actually, sorry, my spreadsheet's not taking that into account. So it is going up a little bit, 3360. These are really low numbers overall because, as I said, they seem to have just slapped a V2 sticker on it, replaced all their links with the V2 contract, and pretended like nothing happened. They pretended like V1 didn't run out of money and people didn't lose their money. So, you could invest in this. I think I have it as a high investment. And the reason that it is a high investment, it is kind of a day old. You're early if you wanted to get in on this. On the 7-day investment, there you could get lucky there. I don't think it's a great investment for two reasons. Number one, the main warning here is this audit button still broken. It just takes you back to the website. So they've cloned the contract. They haven't updated the audit. You can assume that the contract is the same as the previously audited one, but you never know. Maybe they've stuck in a loophole or a backdoor. I haven't checked the contract because I don't intend on investing just because of the kind of overall dodginess of this thing. And what we've learned from the Fury type model is that because of this minimum 7 days, the 20% daily ROI, which is really high, they don't tend to last that long. And Matic Fury V1, I can't remember how long that lasts, but if you look at AVAX Fury, it's kind of on its last legs here. and it's 9 days in. BNB Fury at the bottom made it to 12 days. It may have actually been 11 because it's been zeroed for a little while now. So that is that they can't they don't usually last more than say 8 to 10 days roughly, just because of those high returns that have to come from somewhere. And so Matic Fury V2, I wouldn't call someone an idiot for investing in Matic Fury V2. I think today it's still early, and if you went in the lowest plan, you could definitely I could definitely see making your money back and making a potential profit. But in my view, there's still quite a high risk, just because I would expect people who are in it are probably, there's a very low uptake, and they're probably in it on the minimum, and you're probably already too late. And the fact that there's no audit doesn't fill me with confidence as well. Okay, next on the list, Matic Vault, and I've said it's too early to make a prediction there. I don't think there's anything more there. Let me just take a quick look at the Matic Vault prediction. I just can't see that. There we go, Matic Vault. Yeah. So still too early, the 15th of March. So I've had 1 day, and yeah, it's basically, yeah, I might do an update on this at some point soon to see how that's going. But day one came up with 37,000 invested, and that's kind of day one. Yeah, basically today, Matic Vault. So 37,000 is the day one. In the model here, I had 50,000, I think, as the average, but as I've shown you before, it doesn't really matter. Sorry, 50,000 is the first, and then 100,000 following that. It doesn't really matter what the number is, as long as it's consistent every day, and that's not something that you can see on day one. So Matic Vault, not a huge uptake. I actually was expecting that there was a little bit of buzz around Matic Vault, and I was expecting a little bit of a higher uptake. So, it's still early, still day one. The good thing about Matic Vault is the low rate, which means that it will last a bit longer in theory. And you can see here 1 day active predicting 16 days under kind of an ideal model with consistent daily updates. If it kind of grows beyond that, it will last beyond that April 1 date. If it drops off, obviously it's not going to last that long. So it's still too early to make an accurate prediction. It's probably still a medium risk factor on that basis. Okay, Matic King still avoid due to contract issues. Not too much more to say on that. Matic Stake. Okay, so Matic Stake, this is in day 5 now, and I've also updated the model. I was just reporting a very high initial investment around Matic Stake. And let's have a look at the previous figures that we were looking at. Yeah, so this was based on, I think, the single day's worth of data, and the single day kind of had a really high, 1 point something million worth of initial investments. And so I assumed there would be a drop-off. And as you can see, because there would be a sharp drop-off in daily investments, the contract balance is also going to drop off at about the day 14 mark. So let's see how that's changed with the addition of real information. And you can see it's not too much changed, and that's because the actual amounts going into the contract, the actual deposits, roughly reflect what my assumptions were. So you can see that 1.4 million first day investment, and then dropping down 320, 208, 78, and I've got 100 in there, but really it's going to be less, following this trend down. If you make a 50,000 a day prediction, it won't change things much. It'll just kind of make a sharper drop off on that date. So still kind of around. Basically what this is saying is that the actual investments from the last few days just reinforce this model is very likely to take shape. And the projected end date is March 26 under that revised model, and that hasn't changed. So it's still March 26. That is still on target. I'm calling that that's at the risky stage. We're 5 days in. Contract is of course still going up. That's just how it works. If you look at that graph that I showed you, that's completely predictable. But I think it's time to update the risk on Matic stake to high. I wouldn't get in on this today. It's just way too high, and even at an unlock plan, you're probably unlikely to make a profit in 10 days, and if you do, it's pretty touch and go. So Matic stake upgraded to high risk. Okay, next one on the list is Matic Fomo, and I've also updated the model to take into account the last 2 days active there. And if I can find it here. Sorry about this free software pop-up. Matic Fomo. Okay. I'm not sure what the updated model I had in there, but okay. So I don't think I updated the models. It's just day 2, and I think for my when I looked at this a little bit earlier, I didn't think it was worthwhile doing a model. And look, I'll say this. Look, so if you see the days remaining here, these are the ones that largely I've put a model around, and a lot of these other ones I have not formally kind of gone and crunched the numbers in the spreadsheet, and I'm just taking kind of the estimates from similar contracts and just applying those across the board. The reason being, a lot of these are already risky, late, high, avoid, so I don't really want to spend time on those. If you do have an interest in one of these, just let me know, and I can I can kind of just do the formal model, but I just don't want to waste time doing it. So Matic Fomo, I had a look at this before. It's 2 days old. I called out that there was a very high initial investment, and it was kind of around the million mark. That was day 1. Day 2, I checked the figures, and only 29,000 invested day 2. So that's a really huge warning sign, I'd say there, not to go forward in Matic Fomo. So Matic Fomo, let's just take a look at the site. You can still get in on the daily plan. Those numbers are always going up in terms of the profit. I would not take a contract, a locked contract at this stage. But look, if the last 2 days are anything to show, $1 million on day 1, 29,000 on day 2, there's just not going to be the money coming into that contract to make the payments if you were to get in today. So it's a very high risk in my book, and I've got a fairly confident 13 days remaining in there just on the basis of those first 2 days, because if you just think the first, if everyone goes in day 1 on a 14-day lock, then day 14 all those people get their money out, and there just hasn't been the investment coming in the subsequent days to pay everyone properly and to keep it going, the balance up. It's just going to come crashing down. So 13 days, a fairly confident prediction based on these first 2, and a high risk. Matic Meta is still an avoid due to the force withdraw function, so we're not covering that one. Multi-chain staker, look, we are kind of entering the risky stage. I'm not sure why this is down. You would expect 3 days into a contract that it is starting to go down. There could just be an artifact of having a kind of recent gap in the update. You can see these numbers are fairly similar, but the fees and the rates are fairly high on multi-chain staker. It's called it out. It's still probably a medium risk if we have a look at multi-chain staker. It's just your standard Matic staker type fork, basically a clone. But with Matic staker, they started the savings and the silver at 8% per day. With multi-chain staker, they seem to be starting it around the 11%, and that just means that you're decreasing the time pretty drastically that it can last. And the fact that these deposit fees are normally 10% on most of these ROI DApps, for multi-chain staker, they've decided to go with quite a high 15%. So yeah, look, I've said this before, just on those stats alone, I'm not expecting too much performance out of this. It's a risky it's a medium on the basis of, hey, it's only 3 days in, but yeah, I'm probably even going to upgrade this to high at this stage. That's my personal view. I haven't modeled it, but just just on those figures themselves, the fact that the balance is not changing, it's going to be a high. AVAX staker, right? So the next few, let's not spend too much time on it. AVAX staker, it's been active for 9 days. It probably doesn't have that much to go. It's seems to be ticking along. In its favor, you've got a high, kind of a low, base interest and a low increment, which I like. I think if I'd have gone in, seen this a little bit earlier, I may have invested. It looks pretty good on its its fundamentals there, but 9 days in, you're taking a risk, so still high, and it looks like the contract balance is already going down, so not much more to say. Multimatic on AVAX. Similarly, we've got a flat contract balance there. Let's just have a look in case there's a problem with the spreadsheet there. Actually, no, that's not a quick thing to check because I need to connect my wallet and kind of click around. So, yeah, look, again, 7 days in, I'm not spending much time on these because I think they're at the tail end. I've got the risk as high. So if you're interested, if you want a kind of specific prediction around any of these, if you've got money in there and you want to know, well, when is AVAX staker, when is Multimatic, when do I think they're going to end? I'm happy to kind of put that together and add it to the spreadsheet and give you guys an update. But if no one wants to know, I'm not going to go to that effort because they're, for my personal risk evaluation, we're already too late, so I'm not going to put any money into those. AVAX saving. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Did I? AVAX Fury. Yeah, same deal. Fury apps, all of them. They're not gonna last much beyond 7 days, so 9, 10, 11 days maybe. You can see that's already going down significantly. So that's on its last legs too. AVAX saving. I just want to make a correction there. That date is that it started was March 6th, and I had that showing up as incorrect date on a previous spreadsheet, so I've corrected that to March 6th as the start date. But it doesn't really make a difference to what I've set as the risk level because that is high. It's a high rate because it's I basically said it's just an unusual site. It seems like a kind of a quick cobbled together site, cloning Matic staker and all of the ones that are exactly the same, but then just putting one contract on the page. Can't remember if there was if you look at the audit, the other ones are actually available, but they're kind of in the back end. They didn't bother removing them, so it's just kind of just reeks of shenanigans. And I thought, well, it doesn't look that great. But having said that, look, people are putting their money into it. It is the balance is going up still, but it is 10 days old at this stage, so you're taking a risk in investing. So that's still high. AVAX Fomo, I mentioned yesterday, is a new contract and starting off in 2 days, according to the timer on their website. And big red flag here, no audit. So maybe they'll get that on there, and if they do, I'll take a look at AVAX Fomo. If there's nothing wrong with it apart from that. It looks like an exact clone of Matic staker. These are all the same, even the starting earning at 0.8%, sorry, at 8%. Actually, in its favor here, you've got a 0.3% increase every 24 hours, which is lower than a 0.5. It's a little bit more sustainable that way, but I can't tell you anything else about it. I can't tell you about the fees. I can't tell you any, any weird issues with it. I will, because the audit is not there, and if you click audit, absolutely nothing happens. One red flag for me is this number 3, no forced withdrawal action for silver, gold, and platinum packages. Is there forced withdrawal for the others? I don't know. If there is, then that's a problem, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of days if they decide to add that audit. And if they don't, I just wouldn't invest with no audit, and that's all there is to that. Okay, so Phantom World is this. Well, I've spoken about that in my last video. I don't want to go into that much detail, but it's now 4 days old, getting into risky territory. I will say that balance is looking all right. It's going up. I think it's probably still medium as long as you avoid the locked plan, but it's kind of on the cusp here. I would expect it to start. If I put money into this, I would not have much confidence that I'd be getting my investment back, let alone some profit on that. So that is risky. I think we've spoken about Multimatic on Phantom as well. It's kind of a bit late on that one, in my opinion. Look, it's 7 days. Put it this way: it's 7 days. Multimatic on Matic has gone 17 days. So, look, my prediction tends to be around the 14-day mark for these lock-in contracts, and it may well be that I know that Multimatic has a bit of a brand going, and a lot of people have confidence in Multimatic. That could translate into more new people investing and a longer contract. So I wouldn't fault someone for going into Multimatic on a daily plan and hoping that they hit their payback period on the daily plan. But 7 days for me is too late to be going into any locked plans, just because 21 days for a contract is quite old. 21 days, when we're in the context of these ROI apps, you'll very rarely see a contract go over 21 days. Multimatic was one, and I think that was a rare exception. It had a special case around it, but I wouldn't go betting on Multimatic doing the same thing, especially under this Phantom, which is kind of a smaller contract than the Matic one. So, by all means, if you believe in Multimatic, if you think that the snooze function is going to save it or is going to prolong it enough to make your money, then that is a defensible decision, but it's not one that I would make. FTM Staker is a hard avoid, so we're not covering that one. And the last one is Phantom Fomo. Contract balance is still going up. It's been active for 8 days. And I was actually, before this video, considering putting this into a model, but then I decided against it. It's been 8 days. Is it going to... I'm not going to invest in it. I'm going to actually update this risk to high. I think that it is too old to invest in. But again, if you want to see if you've got money in Phantom Fomo and you have an interest in when that's going to run out, I'm happy to do a more detailed model if you just let me know in the comments. And lastly, that leaves these Bnb contracts. We have BUSD 200, which is a hard avoid, and BNB Fury has just died in the last 24 hours or so. So we're going to change that one to dead, and we're not going to follow that anymore. And yeah, so BNB, all these Fury apps, really high daily return with a 7-day minimum lock. So you're expecting it not to go necessarily too far beyond those 7 days, unless the investment rate in the first couple of days was low and you had kind of more to sustain it after that. So generally, look, I'd avoid these Fury ones unless you're kind of in there right at the start, and then you've got a good likelihood of getting your unlocked returns back. But that's my opinion. As I've said before, I really prefer daily returns just as a risk mitigation. And the edge I see is if you look at all of the, take Matic Stake for example, if you look at something that is laid out like this, or the Matic Staker clones, most people, in my opinion, are going to go into Plan 4, the 14 days, because it seems like a low risk and it's kind of locked. If you're not in on day one, kind of right at the start, maybe like you might take this right at the start if you have some faith that it's gonna grow and gonna be supported. But generally, I'd go into this one because if you're a couple of days late, say, and because you've got more of a chance of making back your 100% of your investment, and maybe if it goes for an extra couple of days, you'll kind of come just ahead. Because look, this is 143% return. You don't actually have to go 14 days to make a profit. You might only have to go 10 days. So this is where it makes sense to go into the daily profit. And I think that gives people who go into that a bit of an edge, and able to mitigate their risk. So, as I've been predicting, the more people get savvy with these, the more that we'll see basically just day one dumps and very little going in beyond day one. And then we'll start to see pretty much people dumping in day one only on plan 1, because there's no guarantees for plan 4 and any kind of lock. So I think that's going to be the progression. And I think that shortly after, these kind of ROI apps are not going to be that lucrative, because it's going to get to the stage where people really just know what's up and are unwilling to take risks. And, that, as I've said, these are Ponzi schemes, and they rely on people making bad decisions in order to pay off the people who've gone in early. All right, so I think that's all. That's good. We kept it under 40 minutes, still longer than I would have liked. And yeah, as I said, I'm gonna try and maybe tone these down a little bit. Unless you guys really do get a lot out of this information, because I don't want to be just giving the same information every day. And I think there are other interesting DeFi apps that are coming out, and a lot of other ways to make money. And I'd really like to kind of get into that as well. I think there's still some life left in ROI. I think there's still a little bit of money to be made, but I see it slowing down. We're kind of in a phase where there's a lot of just new clones coming out, and people starting to cotton on to how they work and what's up. And a lot of people got burnt in Matic Staker, and they're never going to touch one of these again. People who didn't get burned in Matic Staker, or people who saw an opportunity because they got burned in Matic Staker, are going to start being a little bit smarter with the way they invest here. And just the fact that there are so many clones, so many of the same kinds of apps coming out all the time, people are just going to give up. I think it's not going to have the same level of engagement that something like Matic Staker, that was pretty early and seemed to capture a lot of people. I think they had something like 14 or 16 million Matic totally invested by the time it died, and we haven't seen anywhere near that level of investment here. So this whole thing seems to be slowing down. People getting a little bit fatigued about ROI apps, a little bit more savvy and understanding. So I think the opportunity is kind of is dropping. But it's still worth looking at them for a little while longer, in my opinion. Anyway, that's all I have. Thanks again for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like and subscribe button to see more similar content. And if you do want to support the channel, and if you are investing in any of these ROI DAPPs, please use the link in the description. And if I'm invested, I'll get a referral bonus. And if I'm not, it'll just be a straight link and nothing happens. So thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video.